Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Agreeable Gray Area podcast. As always, I am your host, Elle, until something happens and somebody hacks into my things and gets all of my stuff and becomes the new host, which would be kind of interesting considering not too many people know about this podcast. And if they really wanted to take over my podcast, I feel like they could have just asked rather than go into a weird hack thing. Anyway, random. Um, yeah, today is September 25th, which is kind of insane how fast September is going. Like, we only have 5 more days left in September. And then it's just going to be the long holiday slide all the way up into the new year. And it's just, yeah, like time is just kind of going by, and it's weird. Every time it gets to the Burr months, like September, October, time just goes by so quickly. And like next thing you know, it's the new year. Or like, yeah, it's just I don't know, it's just kind of crazy to think like just how quickly time can go. And this is sort of what I'm getting into with this episode. Um, just the fact of growing older, you know. Like I'm a young chick still, hopefully. I'm like in my early 30s. It's a weird time because it wouldn't be weird if I had kids. It wouldn't be weird if I were married, but I still feel really young. Like I feel like if I were to be married and I had kids, I feel really young. Like that just doesn't seem like something I really want to do right now. And it could be because I'm not really dating anyone at the moment, to my knowledge. And the thought of having kids scares the living hell out of me. But that'll be another topic for another time. I came across a pretty interesting TikTok video the other day. It was like this, I don't know if he was a doctor or if he was like I don't know, some sort of professional in the healthcare system or medical system or whatever. But he said something kind of interesting. He was American, and he was saying that the healthcare system is going to keep you alive no matter what. Like, they're going to keep you alive to 85 years old no matter what. But you like when you're younger and like how you're living life, it's going to determine how you're going to be when you're in, like your 70s. Because in order to get to your 80s, you have to pass your 70s. And I feel like we can all agree that, your 70s are pretty old. Like, I feel like 80s is like universally like, okay, you're old and that's not really like offensive. But like your 70s, I would consider it. It's a scary time. I assume I am not there yet. Give me like 40 or more so years. But like I live in Florida, which is like retirement central. So I see and interact with like older folks pretty often, maybe more often than the average, 30 something year old. And, you see people who are like, like walking bad or like have like those like oxygen tank machines, like their wives who are like in better shape, wheeling their husbands in a wheelchair, um, because of surgery after surgery after surgery on his body throughout the years, and his legs are um, not how they used to be, and we just sort of chalk it up to growing older. I do apologize if I offended anybody who um, is like, I do apologize if this may come off very insensitive. It's just this is just where it's just like where my mind has been. And we just assume that, oh, when you get old, everything falls apart. Like when I was turning 30, I got so many messages from friends and family about like, oh, welcome to the bad back club. You're just going to wake up with knee pain and back pain. Like that's like, and it's just a joke. I'm sure you probably seen it on birthday cards and things like that. And we all sort of, and like we always hear it over and over again. If you haven't yet, you will soon once you're, getting towards 30, about people who it's just all downhill from when you hit 30. And when you grow up hearing that shit is terrifying. That shit is absolutely terrifying. Because you've been young all of your life, up until this point. And when you're 29 years old and you know that you can't grow younger, you can't go back in age, your mortality starts to, kind of weigh on you. You really start to think about how your life will be turning out and how you could have possibly changed things. And you try to steer your life in certain directions. At least this is how it was for me. I hope what I said made sense. I was trying to word it in a way that, I don't know, like sounded wise. Fun fact, when you hit your 30s, you give less fucks, but you're not wise. I'm definitely wiser than I was when I was like in my early 20s. If ever I hear like people who are in their early 20s or see them on social media like TikTok or Twitter, I'm always like, "Aw, I remember when I thought like you. I remember when I thought I was people." It's an Archer reference. But yeah, like you start to you really start to just try to really view your life in a more realistic lens. I think that's the best way to describe that. Because you do start to notice aches and pains. You do notice that things that used to, like heal faster may take a little bit more time, and it starts to become concerning. You start to inch towards that age where, it may not be these diseases on WebMD that I used to see growing up, and they would always say like, oh, it affects people who are, like in their 40s or 50s. And like, it's like, okay, I'm still in my 30s, but I could possibly also have this just because this website says it doesn't necessarily mean I can't have this thing. And then you may start to just spiral into an anxiety panic cocktail. When I was, like about to turn 30. So I'll tell you guys a story. When I was exactly 90 days away from turning 30, I broke down crying. When I think back on it, I don't even know what triggered it. I don't know if it was just because I did the math. I was like, holy shit, I have precisely 90 days until I turn a whole new decade. It was just, I don't know, I guess because it was less than 100 days or less than, 365 days. It was just, like 90 days is like a probationary period for like a job. Like after the 90 days, then I'm officially an employee of being 30, It's like I can start getting my health benefits. I don't know. It was just crazy. I broke down crying. I was freaking the fuck out. I was just panicking because of all the things that I just haven't done, or a lot of the things that I just haven't done enough of, or a lot of experiences I just haven't had enough of, or I don't know. It was just a lot of just, I guess, regret. I think regret is a word that we're sort of afraid to say, because that one guy who got the tattoo in We Are the Millers, who said no ragrats, who spelled it wrong, who got it tattooed on his, I think, his chest. But in all seriousness, I think we were just taught to like not have any regrets. And I don't see how that's like possible. Mind you, I'm not saying I have a boatload of regrets or I hate the life that I live or anything. It's just sometimes you think back on things that you could have done differently. And sometimes you think like where that could have taken you in life. It's like, would I have been happier? Would I have been sadder? Would I have been in the exact same position that I am now? I like to think that I would be. I don't think I would have been in too different of a situation. And that sort of gives me like solace. It kind of gives me comfort because I like when I think back on certain things that I feel like I could have done differently, I start to really think about the people that were around me or the people that I was involved with or the person that I was involved with and who they are. I may have been looking at the situation in the lens of a stupid 23-year-old. I may have been looking in the lens of a stupid 25-year-old who had just, gotten a really great job or something. I was probably looking at it in the lens of a scared 21-year-old. Like I can't really, say, like there's no way of saying if like my life would have been different. So I don't really think I have like any major regrets. There are just like, a handful of things that I wish I could have done differently. And once you're growing older, it's sort of I don't know, like I remember seeing like a meme years ago that like when you're in your 30s, it's like you have all the cheat codes to when you were in your 20s. And I would have to agree with that. Because when you're in your 30s, it's sort of like been there, done that. When somebody is, like if a guy is trying to talk to you and he's just saying some bullshit, it's like, oh, he's just a piece of shit guy. Like that's all he's going to be. Or he really thinks that these things, what he's going to say is going to work, and that's just sad and pathetic. Or, like if you're having like an interview with a job, you have a better understanding of what to say. You know how to be yourself. You know who you are. Whereas like when you're in your 20s, you have no fucking clue who you are. You're still trying to, figure that out. Like it's sort of eye-opening when you're getting older how like pretty much most of your life from like age 0 to I don't know, like late 20s, you're just kind of figuring out who you are. You're just sort of learning, taking in information, taking in experiences. And then once you're in your late 20s, early 30s, you can finally start really implementing those experiences. It's like you gain the tools, and now in your late 20s, early 30s, you can actually start implementing the tools and you see how it works. I mean, that's just, my opinion. Some people, got their tools earlier or figured out how to utilize their tools and their experiences and their knowledge earlier, of course, when it came to, certain things, whether it's like relationships, jobs, self-care, self-love, But I really, truly think that once you get to like your late 20s, early 30s, like you really, truly have a more concrete understanding of who you are as an individual, as a person. They say that your brain doesn't fully develop until like 25 when you're 25 or 26. And I I mean, it's true, so I can't say I say that I believe that's correct. That's just what it is. And I it's just weird to like really see that, because when I think back on who I was before, I was like, wow, I was truly an idiot. I was, just not wise at all. I would say, like, if there's one thing that I do wish I did take more seriously when I was younger, and I'd probably say this a lot on this podcast that's only 6 episodes, but I only do so many things, so, whatever. Um, it's definitely like eat better and exercise. And I'm sure that's what everybody says. But I definitely see why, because it was kind of nice like entering my 30s and not being in like pain and like not having like back pain unless like I worked out back or upper body, like the night before, or if I, you know, did something that really worked out my back, or if I, like, but I don't just wake up thinking, oh man, I need a new bed. I've had my bed for like 7, 8 years, I think. I do want a new bed. I'm just, getting kind of tired of it. But that's another story. It's not because like I wake up in pain. It's just because I just feel like the bed is getting kind of old. But I'm happy to like not have to, wake up feeling that way. I'm happy that I've been eating better because I definitely see the positive results. I'm definitely like more so focused on myself and like what makes me truly happy, because I'm starting to really accept that rather than think I need to like another thing, but that's only because like what my mom might say or like what other family members might say. It's like, oh, you're a woman, you should be like this. You're a woman, you should be interested in that. And I'm like, well, if it's not for me, if I do not care, then I do not care. um, but I didn't want to get back to, like the TikTok video that I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast. Like I started to think like it's a good thing that I am, working out and eating better, because I'll be honest, my reasoning for working out and eating better was incredibly shallow. And I'll probably have another episode about that. Unless I've mentioned it before, I can't remember. I apologize. One of my main reasons for working out was because I was turning 30. And I felt like this was it. Like if I don't, get fit, if I don't lose weight, if I don't start working out now, I just never will. I took the L in myself. Like I was like, I gotta hire a personal trainer. I am not going to just wake up one Saturday morning and start working out and knowing what I need to do. I know who I am. This is not me. And yeah, this was like, I don't know, March or April of when I was 29, and I didn't turn 30 until August. So I knew that time was ticking. I knew that 4 months, like 4 or 5 months, is going to be here before you know it. So I got to, start now. But I didn't really, I knew that exercising is, of course, is good for you, and it's good for, like longevity in life, and, like having more energy and, confidence and all that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I never really thought about how I would be when I was like old. That didn't really cross my mind. It's sort of something I'm afraid to think of. I wasn't really thinking about how I would be when I was like in my 70s. And this TikTok video was saying, how do you want to be when you're in your 70s? Like, do you want to be playing golf outside with your friends? Or do you want to be like sitting on the couch, with like having, all these pills and medications to take, having trouble being able to walk, being able to move, needing, like a caretaker and all that. I understand that sometimes that's just inevitable. Sometimes it's genetics as to why certain things may happen to you, and it's very unfortunate, and it, could be out of your control. I was also thinking about how what's in my control, though. I've spoken about like caring about my tomorrow self, but I never thought about really caring about my elderly self. Like, what do I need to do now to ensure that my elderly self is okay? A part of me, does want to just like go out and drink and eat whatever and exercise, because, like fitness is like a part of my life now. And, like not really care about portion control, or just sort of just eat whatever and do whatever. And occasionally I do that, if I forget to take the meat out of the freezer, or it's like, I'm tired of all these leftovers for the past 3 days, I just want to eat something different. Or if I'm just like crazily craving cookies or chocolate like I was today, my God. And it would be fun to just sort of do that. And it's easy to do that. It's easy to just get into that happy hour lifestyle, especially with working from home. just like hitting up some friends. It's like, hey, let's just, go out, grab a drink. Hey, you can come over, let's have a drink. I have some wine. Yeah, let's order a pizza. Let's like order some Chinese food. Let's just and sort of live that bachelorette life. I don't know, guys on Hinge that have been liking me lately have been they sort of come across as guys who, for lack of a better way to phrase it, is guys who don't really care about what they eat. Guys who probably aren't very active. And I don't want this to come across as like I'm that exercise, like active fit girl. Like no, like but I can see how easy it is to just sort of fall back into that lifestyle. And it's like, well, my boyfriend, doesn't really cook and I don't really want to cook, so let's just order out again. It's like, oh, let's just go to this restaurant and, get an appetizer of like, I don't know, fried chicken wings and eat this, big ass dinner that could feed us for like 4 days, but we eat it all at the table. And then we order a dessert. Like, I could see how that could easily just like be my life. And I could sort of see how like that's probably somewhat their lives too. I feel like I'm sounding shitty. Like, I am not trying to make people feel bad for what they eat. That's not my intention at all. Like, I'm the type that's like live and let live. Like, I totally understand just wanting to live like that. Like, absolutely, I fucking understand that. Like, it's chill. You have nothing to worry about. You're just making yourself happy, doing what you want to do. You're trying different foods, and like you're having a good time. Absolutely, I get that. I understand that, and I miss that. I think it's because I have a trainer, and he gets really he gets upset whenever I eat poorly. I don't tell him what I eat per se, but he can just tell by looking at me. And it's pretty aggravating. So I guess because I have a trainer, I have like just like that thought process. But I don't really want people to feel guilty for what they eat. One of my good friends is a nutritionist, and he told me like there's no such thing as guilty pleasures when it comes to food, just pleasures. And it made me feel better and like gave me like a better relationship when it came to food. Not like I had like a bad one, but when you're starting to like work out, this was like last year, I had this, conversation with him. Like when I'm just starting to work out and kind of get into the groove, it was just sort of, you start to kind of feel bad if you like eat a frozen pizza, or you feel like shit if you know, have 3 cookies or something. And I was like, I don't like that feeling. That feeling is going to make me depressed. That feeling is going to make me upset. So he was just saying, like, hey, instead of eating like a full frozen pizza, eat just half of it and then have like a salad to like kind of compensate. It's like, okay, I've been, adding salads to like everything that I make. It helps me feel full and what have you, and it's healthier. Honestly, I've seen the results of, just like drinking a lot and poor eating habits and how like it's affected people like in my own family. Um, one of my family members drinks a lot, like a worrisomely amount of alcohol. I feel, he smokes. I don't know if he's quit smoking cigarettes or or weed. He doesn't really smoke weed anymore, but I know that occasionally like he smokes cigarettes. Um, he is not the most active person. He is, like pretty big. He eats out a lot, but he also, like cooks his own meals occasionally. But like he snores, he has sleep apnea, and he's young. He's apparently had it for a few years now. He uses like a CPAP machine. And it's just pretty heartbreaking to see because this family member is only like 3-4 years older than me. So I know them all my life. And I heard that they even got the surgery to help with the sleep apnea. And it didn't even stop his sleep apnea. Like like, that's how crazy it is. I last heard that they're, working out, like they go to the gym, like they go for walks and stuff like that. And they're trying to eat a little bit better because, losing weight, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on that. I know that losing weight helps with, stopping snoring, but I believe losing weight also helps with like, sleep apnea symptoms. Don't quote me on that though. I did not research that and I apologize. So I'm glad that, like they're working out and everything. It's just, I really hope that, like they stay on it because we don't really think about how what we do now is going to affect the people around us once we get older. Like, we might become a big burden to our friends and family simply because we just never stopped smoking and drinking. And I want to like definitely push this again about it doesn't like, live your life however you choose to live your life. I'm not bashing you, I'm not judging you. I 100% understand, like times are hard, things can be really hard, things can be very difficult. So you just want to smoke a spliff, have a couple of beers after work because work could be hella stressful and you just kind of want to, like veg out. But you can't just do that every day until your final days, especially like, and not think about how your existence, your being, yourself has an effect on others. Like, let's say you're in a relationship and you guys have been together for like 2-3 years, you might be married. If you start to kind of like just fall into like this path of you're not really like helping your significant other out around the house, but you're still contributing to like messing things up, that's like kind of something that you see immediately and you can kind of rectify it immediately. But like not taking care of yourself internally, you don't really see how that can affect your partner, your spouse, your kids until maybe when you're like a lot older. So I can see like how this family member can possibly be like a burden to us once we get older, as shitty as that may sound. Because right now they're just a couple of years older than me. They're like in their like early to mid 30s, and they're already going through a lot of stuff medically. So we always hear that like, oh, once you hit 30, it's all downhill from here. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It's just that if you allow it to be that way, then it will be, and it will be a lot harder to um, get go like go up the hill go back up the hill rather. Like I know people who are in their 40s that you know aren't necessarily like old, like so to speak. Like they're not like struggling. They're not like like they're healthy, like they work out hard and like they eat well and like they're still rocking like it's nothing. And I'm not trying to say like 40s are old, even though I just kind of said that. It's just people like when you're younger you sort of think that 40s is old, and it's really not. And you really do have the options and opportunity to make your 40s and 50s and 60s not seem old. Remember one time, my personal trainer, he works at a bank. So, he interfaces with a lot of people. And he said that it was like the same day, this 80-year-old man comes in and he looks like he's like in his 60s. He was, or, even younger. Like he's talking, he's having fun, he's laughing. And he was like 82. And my trainer could not believe it. But it's because, the man still like, eats well and works out and, has taken care of his body, for probably like his whole life, or at least a large portion of his life. And then another man comes in who is the same age, 82, is walking with like a cane, a walker, has like a massive gut, struggling to talk, struggling to breathe. And it was just like such a vast difference between the two gentlemen. And like it is sort of scary to think how, because we don't really think about how we're going to be when we get older, but it can, like it can be a struggle, or it could be not as struggling. I did want to mention this one thing that I've noticed within myself. Like I started graying at 23, and it was kind of embarrassing. I mean, not like anyone can see it because it was like one or two gray hairs. Like no one could see it, but like it was just mind blowing. Like it is a shock to the system when you see your first gray hair. And I was in my early 20s, damn it, like I wasn't even old. I mean, I'm not even old now. But I was mad young. And I was like, I have a gray hair? It's like, why do I have a gray hair? I'm like, nothing is stressing me out. Like, I had a great job. Like, I mean, I was living at home with my parents at the time, but I was about to move out, like, I was going to move out like at the end of that year. Not that I knew that, but that's what ended up happening. But, I had a fantastic job. I graduated college. I was doing great. Had a car, and I had a gray hair. And I was like, why? Why do I have a gray hair? So that wasn't fun. Actually, like the first time I saw it I was actually at work. I was like, I was like in the bathroom. I saw like looking in the mirror. I saw like like the lights are like fluorescent lights, and I thought, oh, there must be like some weird shine on the light against my hair. And I pulled the hair, and I remember like it had like a different texture. Like I felt the hair, it was had a weird texture, and I just pulled it. I was like, maybe it's like some other material from like clothes or something that may have just gotten stuck in my hair. I don't know. I pull it. It's attached to my head. It's like, okay, let me pull it and look at it to see if it's actually gray, or if like the shine of the light is making it look gray. And lo and behold, it was gray. And yeah, that was not fun. Fast forward till to now. That's a good like I don't know, 6, 7 years later. I've gotten like a couple of more gray hairs. So which is good, like I'm not, salt and peppering it yet. But I am just, like there's just like little like I've noticed that I haven't really been graying as much as I was prior to working out. Like, and I think, and once again, don't quote me, this is just my experience. Your mileage may vary. But I've noticed that since I started working out and eating better and like not drinking alcohol as much, like, and, definitely watching what I eat and everything, I don't gray as much. I'm not saying that my gray hair is like completely stopped. Of course, that's just the natural process of aging. But I have noticed that I don't gray as much, which is kind of cool. So, if anyone's out there who is tired of their gray hair, maybe, and either you continue dyeing it or maybe exercise and eat better. I don't know. I don't know what the magic thing is that I did for it to drastically slow down graying my hair. Like there have been times when I've plucked out my gray hair and it just didn't grow back gray. Like it's like, okay, I plucked this out like months ago. I would have like seen something by now. Like but yeah. So that's like really cool. Um but yeah, I say all that to say like growing older, like we have the choice of how we want to grow older. I feel like a lot of times we look on the outside of like like how we want the future to look, but we rarely look at the inside of what we are doing to our future bodies and our future minds within ourselves. Not like the future minds of like students, but like the future, like our own future mind, our own future body, and our own future mind. So yeah, just some food for thought. No pun intended or pun intended? Nah, I'll take it. I'll take the pun. Anyways, thank you all for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.